certified real.
Hey, I'm a little excited.
You heard it here first. Certified real. Everybody.
You are now listening to Real Talk Podcast.
This is certified.
Welcome back, Real Talk family. We're back with another Real Talk interview. Today we have a special guest. But let's start off. We got the usual suspects, myself and Tarell. And then we have a special guest with us that's been on just about everything you can think of, television-wise. Done some voice acting for some of the great video games like Saints Row that I grew up playing with as a kid. Janora Mcduffie. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit better than that for us?
Absolutely. First off, Xavier and Tarell, thank you so much for having me on Real Talk. I am always in support of young brothers doing their thing, especially in unity. So thank you for letting me play and chop it up with y'all today. Yep, I'm Janora Mcduffie, originally from North Carolina, but been a California girl for the last 2 decades, chasing these dreams. That has definitely been a fun ride. Sometimes more fun than others, especially when a sister's working, but definitely it's a blessing to be on a journey, living your dreams. So, yep, I'm an actor, best known for my role of social worker Janet on season 7 and 8 of Grey's Anatomy. However, my last TV appearance, I was on this past season of This Is Us, which was really exciting and a blessing to be on as well, because that's an outstanding show. In terms of the young millennial Black population, I think I might be best known for, however, my role as Milan on Black and Sexy TV. I'm not sure if y'all are up on that, but that is For Us, By Us movement on the web, which is definitely how people consume their content, which is a beautiful thing because that means we can create our own content and not wait for someone to give us that job. So I reprise this beautiful MILF named Milan and the Hello Cupid, as well as Chef Julian. So those were 2 really popular shows on that network. It was a whole network full of web content that was fun and saucy storylines that starred us, written by us, and produced by us, directed by us. So that was a really lovely experience. And as you said, I also do voice work as well. So I think sometimes in the pursuit of a particular dream, it's important to have your focus, but not so tight of blinders that you don't see the blessings and opportunities all around you. And so one of the opportunities has been on the voiceover side of entertainment. And I kicked that off. This is maybe to predate Saints Row a little bit. My first voiceover role period was Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. I voiced some of the characters in that game as well.
Dope.
So that's
dope.
What kicked off the voiceover party, and been on that road ever since as well too.
So I had 1,000 questions that happened just over that. But the first question is, what got you into doing the voiceover? Like, how did that come about to do Saints Row and San Andreas and stuff like that?
Absolutely. So this is great advice for everybody in any industry, but so much is about who you know, right? So I just happen to know this brother who was cousin with the casting director of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. So he was just like, my cousin is cast and is allowing me to have some of my friends to come out. Do you want to? Okay. So I showed up and showed out and gave him my best thug bitch on the street that will jack you. I don't think I could twist it, but no, and it worked. And at that time, I did not have voiceover representation because I wasn't even thinking about voiceovers. I was just thinking about acting, thinking about TV, thinking about, movies. So when the voiceover opportunity came my way and I booked it, instead of like, okay, well, let me, that was nice, but let me go back to this. I was like, no, this is a whole world. And it's still acting. You just don't see me.
Right.
I told my commercial agent at the time that had a voiceover department, hey, I just booked something in the voiceover world. I will give you my 10% if you represent me. So that's how I jumped into the voiceover world, getting an agent, and then opportunities started to come from there.
Dope. That's dope. and that's it, to me, it's crazy because I've seen, you see that a lot, and sometimes when you think voiceovers, you automatically think animations, Pixar, Disney, etc. I feel like it's kind of a hidden gem when it comes to video games. And a lot of people don't think that video games don't have producers and directors of their storyline and stuff like that. So it's interesting that we finally have somebody on the show that has a lot of experience in that can, give that to our viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. And the video game industry, although I might not be a gamer myself, that is a billion-dollar industry. Mm-hmm. And so it's interesting with the actors that voice games that make billions, like Grand Theft Auto or Saints Row, when you have name characters like Sam Jackson, I believe, was one of the voices in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. And I'm sure his contract looked different than mine because voiceover in video games at that time, and I still don't think so. I need to review the contract, but what's important to know is it's not the same residual breakdown as it is in TVs and in movies, which is really interesting because, like I said, it's a billion-dollar industry. But you do need voices and humans to bring that to life. Although this whole new AI world, which is a whole nother conversation, exists as well and is bubbling in terms of voices and even in animation, not just in video games. So that's interesting too. And in the whole vein of other opportunities in the voiceover world that people don't know about, I also do something called ADR looping loop group. And what that is, in post-production, there's a whole new world where they hire actors to sweeten the sound. So for example, let's just say it's a restaurant scene, right? And you and I, Tarell, we are having dinner together at the restaurant, and it's a packed restaurant. But when they shoot that scene, everybody's quiet because, the main actors need to have perfect sound. But when you play that back, when you watch the movie, it's not going to make sense unless you have the waiter saying, "Oh, will that be a table for two?" or the couple in the next table cackling or wondering what they're going to order. So the whole nother group of actors will go in and voice the background. That, in addition to maybe, like, let's say it's a fight scene, right? And Xavier, I don't know what you did, but I am punching you. I'm giving you the 1-2. But in a movie, it's really going to be good if I hear you say, "Ugh," or "Ugh." They have this whole nother group of actors do that to, again, sweeten the sound. And it's everything from whether it's exaggerating certain sounds or breaths or efforts or being background voices to even like being voices on TV, because let's just say they're watching a show on TV. They have to have certain rights to actually play that show. So they'll have an actor like me pretend that I'm the voice of that show, making you think as a viewer that the person on TV is really watching that show. I hope that made sense. I'm excited talking about it. And you see, I'm over here sweating like a dog. I closed my doors so for better sound, but we ain't got no AC. So a sister is breaking a sweat, breaking down the voiceover. But one last thing about that, and I'm gonna let you back in with question number 2 of 1,000, is it's just as lucrative. Like I get paid the same amount doing this voiceover work, let's just say in the loop group, as I would as an actor that says, Tarell, you forgot your telephone at the table or something like that. And I get residuals. So it's a beautiful, fun field. Again, if I had my blinders on or if I didn't work my network, I wouldn't have had these opportunities to jump into all these different realms that exist in the entertainment industry that have really made my journey and path much more exciting, lucrative, and also doable. Because again, if I'm only waiting on that one acting role, a sister gonna be lonely and sad because the meantime is life. So whether it's enjoying my friends, my family, or whether it's getting involved in other areas of the industry like voiceover, then it all comes together as one. And it's not just that one single way that we think is going to be before we take the plunge to come to LA or, wherever you end up to pursue your dream.
Right. So so for me, the loop that I always thought that, like I always thought they had a separate time where they had the background sound come in, but I didn't know it was, you know, a separate world. Is the way that you get that particular role, is it the same? Do they have castings for that the same way? Because that's kind of new. That's why I don't know, Tarell, if you have heard of that before. But that's my first time hearing about that. Is it the same type of casting for this and that?
It is. Now, a lot of groups are really gelled together and they work project to project. But then, of course, there are openings, and it is, depending on what it is a casting process. Sometimes I do get a loop from my agent to try out for, to send in a sample for. And then sometimes going back to big lesson number one that I'm sure will continue to come up in this conversation is who you know. So the very first time that I worked a loop group, I think it was either Stomp the Yard or This Christmas, but I was friends with Will Packer, the producer. I met him in college, and as soon as his star continued to rise, you know, he was like, Janora, I can't really give you a role in X, Y, and Z, but I can put you in what's called the Loop Group. And it's like, wow, what's the Loop Group? So that was my first time giving it a try. And I think it was one of his first movies. I think it was Stomp the Yard. And it's not just somebody giving you a hookup, right? That's just step number one, is getting in the door. It's what do you do when you're in the door, right? So I was able to show, improve, and shine. So from there, that loop group coordinator was like, oh, we got to have her for our next role. So from there, I've done loop groups from Straight Outta Compton. I've done them from Selma. On TV shows, I did it for The Underground. It's just really been a blessing to have this also as part of my path. But again, started from who I knew, but I had to be ready when I had the opportunity.
That's the first time I've ever heard of that loop group, that whole concept of, you know, casting. Like that's like very interesting. And even how you even got to that point, you kind of like networked with people. Like you said, you went to college with this one guy and you ended up getting a job doing that years later. And we even, you know, talked about the importance of networking on the show before. We had an episode on the podcast where we talked about, you know, going to film school versus not going to film school. And when it came to talking about not going to film school, it was always a conversation of, you know, is networking better than, you know, education? So I wanted you to, you know, kind of elaborate on that. What do you think is, you know, more important when it comes to getting yourself into the industry? Is it the networking part or, you know, just purely the education part?
I think they do not have to be mutually exclusive. I think it's both and instead of either or. I think, sure, you can have all the strongest network in the world, but if you show up and you are unprepared or you don't have that education that has laid a foundation of excellence when you show up, then you're not going to get the next job, because it's, again, not about that first one. It's about longevity. And I read this story once where someone was asked about their big break, when they got their big break, and they said there's no such thing as a big break. It's just a sequence of continued little breaks where you do your damn thing. So, you know, Will Packer put me in Stomp the Yard was not a big break, but it was a little break that continued to be able to, 20 years later, still have life in the loop group arena. You got people as an actor who came right off the plane, maybe thought they were the cutest thing in their hometown, and might have made it right away without any kind of schooling behind them. They just had the confidence and the right look and maybe met the right person on the right day. But then you have people who've been grinding and putting in the time and pounding the pavement and showing up at these networking events. And it might have taken them, instead of 2 days off the plane, maybe 2 decades off the plane. What you have to realize is it becomes a real a road going nowhere if you compare your journey to other people's journey. So that's to say, I'm not to make a tangent off of what you're saying. I'm saying there've been success stories both ways. You find people who ain't had a bit of education but have blown up, and you find people who have put in that time to achieve excellence, and you see that their star has risen.
I think one thing that's really important that we are receiving is that the few people that we have interviewed so far are on the same page when it comes to how the industry works and how you get yourself going, how you establish, and at least what you have to do to get there to get established, right? And I kind of wanted to move forward on it in a sense, like what got you into acting? So like 20 years, what made you want to move to LA and say, hey, this is what I want to do and I know I can do it?
Sure. So, born and raised in North Carolina. Shout out to the Bull City, Durham. I always love to represent and shout out where I'm from. Went to University of North Carolina. My senior year, I got a job, my first semester of my senior year, working for corporate America. So you couldn't tell me nothing. Although I still had acting somewhere in the background, it faded to black as soon as I figured out I wasn't going to be broke no more. I was going to have a job and dress up, and I was moving to Atlanta. Now, I moved to Atlanta, though, pre-Tyler Perry. I mean, I guess I'm aging myself a little bit, but it was before Atlanta was the Hollywood of the South. So when I've always had acting dreams. In high school, I had the lead role in the 10th grade, and that's a big deal, by the way. Usually you got to wait till your senior year to have the lead role, but this was my 10th grade year and I had the lead role. My stories are going to come full circle, I promise. So 10th grade lead role school play. 2 days before the play went on, the principal canceled the play because he saw our promo picture and one of the pictures had two guys holding hands. So he canceled the play because there were two gay characters in the play. Never read the script, never came to a rehearsal, nothing. So again, that is the bad part about being from the South, and especially back in the day. So I said from that, I was never going to act again. So after that, I actually went to a boarding science and math school, and that did not have a drama program. It was only when I went to Carolina and was trying to figure out, all right, well, what am I going to major in? The classes that spoke to me were all in performance and all in drama. And my counselor at the time said, major in what you love. Like all the other stuff will come in terms of just like finding a job. When you find a job, they'll want to know your leadership skills, your communication skills, how active you were outside of class, but do what you love. And then because you're doing something you love, your grades will reflect that. So that's the full package right there. And he was absolutely right. I ended up majoring in communication studies with a concentration in performance studies. And I got this job at Ernst & Young as a consultant, which is a completely different path. But again, that's a little bit of advice for anybody wondering what to major in and should I major in something that can get me a job? No, do something you like and let your other life, your full life as a student speak for itself. Okay, so now I'm in college and I realized that, acting was great, got this job, showed up to my job in Atlanta and hated it. I was in a cubicle. I was doing pretty technical work. I was a data warehouse consultant. When they hired me for a data warehouse consultant, I didn't know what a data warehouse was. I still can probably barely tell you what a data warehouse is, but it was a lot of things that were not speaking to where my heart was and where my passion and where I felt my talents lie. So what I'm trying to say is you can't run from what you want to do or what you're meant to do in life. So yeah, okay, I'm not going to act anymore in high school, but it came back around in college. Yeah, I'm not going to act anymore because I got a job and I'm going to make some money, but it still came back full circle because you can't run. And so in that, on the radio station, it was a casting call for this movie filming in Atlanta called Barbecue. Right? No plot, just Black folks at a barbecue, but it was a movie and I was excited and I got a part. So while I'm working, I'm finding a way to still shoot this movie. The movie had a limited theatrical release. So it came out in like Atlanta, Memphis, somewhere in Alabama. So places where there were large Black populations. But I I was so excited. My parents came down to the premiere, and I was like, this is what I meant to do. Like, this was calling me. So I told 2 people that I was going to quit and move to LA. I told the guy that hired me, and I told the woman that was assigned to be my counselor in my corporate job. The guy who hired me was like, you know what? I think that's a great idea. I'm going to give you a couple of my contacts. He ended up knowing or going to college with one of the writers for the Parkers and one of the writers for the Jamie Foxx show. Again, Asian myself, but either way, it's all good.
That's dope. Jamie Foxx show is one of my favorite shows.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So from there, they put me on to be a union extra on both of the shows. And getting into the actors union is a huge feat when it comes to the life and the journey of an actor. So that was, such a blessing, but it came from me opening in my mouth, speaking what I wanted to the people in my circle that cared about me. And so that opportunity came out. The second person, again, was the counselor at my job. And she said, you know what, Janora, don't quit and move to LA. Let me put in the paperwork for you to transfer to the Los Angeles office. The job I worked was a global company, so they did have an LA office, and I believed in myself. I spoke it, and I had no idea. There was no intention of like, let me see what I can get from them. Like, it was no, let me share that with people who are in my circle. And it was just, again, such a blessing to watch my dream at that time fly, or just be blessed by people who cared about me and saw that genuine fire from me and wanted to help. So that, Xavier, was a very long story about how I got to Los Angeles. And yeah, so that was about 20 years ago.
It's interesting that you mention that because, well, first of all, great story. I loved it. Loved the entire story. And I always hear people, saying, oh, just study something that's going to make you a lot of money, or do this is going to make you a lot of money. It's never do what you want or follow your passion. And even if you did follow your passion, it's always okay. Make sure you have a backup plan. It was always, just in case it doesn't work out, make sure you have this in place. And every time I hear that, I always think of, there was an interview with Denzel Washington with, I forgot who was with, but he was like, I don't want to fall back on anything. If I'm going to fall, I'm going to fall forward, meaning he had this idea of himself being an actor in his mind. Now, obviously he can't predict the future, but he was just so convinced that he was going to be an actor that he didn't make a backup plan. He was like, that's what I'm going to do. And that's final. It wasn't, oh, I hope I'm going to make a lot of money someday, or I'm going to do this because I'm going to be rich or whatever. He did it because that's what he loved. And I think, people need to, if you really want to do something, you should just focus on that. Obviously the money's going to come. If you're really good at something, the money's going to come anyway. So you might as well pick something you're good at.
Yeah. And this journey is not for the faint of heart. So when it gets really tough, the idea of being rich, it ain't going to sustain you. Or the idea of whatever other superficial reason that this field attracts people is not going to sustain you. It's going to have to be the love that keeps you going. And sometimes even that's hard to find when days are really, really tough. But that definitely goes way deeper than, ooh, I want to be rich, or, ooh, let me get this fame a little bit.
So I wanted to second that, what Tarell was saying, because you do get that a lot, especially in the Black community, where they're saying, security. Is usually sports or the military or something like that is the options that's kind of pushed our way. So to hear that you had so much support, it's kind of inspiring to especially for myself, to like, all right, I'm in the right field because I do have that love for it and stuff like that. So to hear that, just makes it even better than what it was. My next question is, you did mention that you did have some setbacks in a way, like in high school, you said with the school play. Have you had setbacks like that along the way moving forward? So how did you engage that? How did you go about that? Like, what's your method?
That is a great question. And I think that is where the money's at. That's where the growth is at, because that I cannot imagine anybody in this field of uncertainty and what am I trying to say? I'm basically saying everybody in this field has had many setbacks. I was trying to find a clever way to say it, but I think this sweat is just killing my wittiness. Daggone it. But yeah, I mean, A plus B does not equal C in the land of dreams, right? You think, yeah, you go to whatever school, whether it's getting your MFA or whether it's getting your film degree. And then, okay, well then I'm gonna move to a big market. I'm gonna move to Atlanta, or I'm gonna move to LA or New York. And then C is supposed to be, ta-da, putting to work, right? I got my foundation. I'm dope at what I do. I'm here, y'all. Like, where is it? And so, especially coming from when things usually work out for you, right? When usually you put your mind to something and it works, you're thinking that same equation or that same magic that you have is gonna just happen. And I'm saying that it will, because you never want to give up on yourself. You never want to give up on your dreams. What I'm saying is you can't time it. So the goal is to be prepared in the meantime when those down times come, when you put your resume in, or I've gone to so many auditions or interviews or whatever your path is in this entertainment world and nothing has come. Like, then where do you go? Then where do you dig from? Then how do you keep going? Where does your resilience come from? And so that, going back to what I was originally attempting to say, is the growth and is the money. And I swear I am so much of a stronger person now than I was when I first landed. Now, granted, I sometimes reminisce to those days that were just unjaded and the world was mine. As in, yeah, Janora could dream it, Janora could do it, and it's happening. Now I have grown, not this way and this way. I mean, COVID-19, but we're not talking about that. But grown this way, as in I have just gotten so much of a deeper of a well, because that's where I've had to go to keep going. So I think my biggest setback, well, I feel like I had I can speak to two big setbacks. And I'm putting that in quotes because it's part of the journey. So it definitely doesn't necessarily have to be spoken as a setback. Now, taking a step back and looking at the full picture, it was just another twist in the road, but still toward the dream that I am achieving. So what am I trying to say? My first step back was, remember, all right, I left y'all with my story. I came to LA, I done got in the union. I know I was on the Jamie Foxx show and the Parkers right away. Even before I moved to LA, in Atlanta, I knew the exact date I was moving. So 2 weeks in advance, I put my headshot and resume in the mail. Again, old school. Now you just push a button with your computer. But I put my headshot and resume in the mail to the agents that I had researched. I had done the work. And when I got to LA that first week, I had agents lined up to meet, and I signed with one. Like, you couldn't tell me I wasn't on fire. You couldn't tell me that things weren't about to pop off. And when they didn't, or when they didn't in the way that I had in my mind, as in like, yeah, I'm about to be Danielle's niece in the next training day. Like, where's that phone call? Because Janora's in town and Janora's done the work, and Janora, fill in the blank of however excellent I think I am, or however much work I think I have put in. I felt like it was time, and it had shown with the things that had happened. But when it dried up, as in my phone wasn't ringing, or yes, there's no Denzel Washington film where I am playing the niece, then it's just like, what? Then it's just like, where do you go? Right? And that's the place I had to find the first time around. And I found it in the form of, this is another wonderful lesson, figuring out my tribe. So here in LA, you got a little bit of everything. And I'm sure you all from the East Coast have heard some horror stories about the folks here on the West Coast.
All the time.
But if I'm here and I feel like I'm a real person, I feel like there got to be some other like-minded souls, and there are. You just got to sift a little bit harder, and you just got to put out there like your genuine self and not your wannabe stage self. So in other words, again, I did make it to the clubs, make it to whatever scene I thought I needed to be in, but that wasn't me. And it wasn't a reflection of who I am. So for a minute, I've got these dreams that aren't happening. And then I'm surrounded by a lot of people who are not a reflection of who I am as this Dermite hometown girl, whatever you want to call it. Someone who believes in education. In fact, I had a full ride to go to Carolina, but I then found myself in LA where nobody even cares if you went to school or not. So I had attached myself to all these things that I thought that I thought that were a big deal. But in LA, I felt like they had no currency. So going to back to the drawing table and figuring out who am I in that case, and then finding the right people in my life, in my immediate life, now that I live in LA, that are a reflection of that, so that they can remind me when I forget or lift me up when I'm just like, I don't know about this anymore. So I think that was a huge lesson and step toward my longevity here in LA.
Yeah.
All right. So, yes, I'm sorry, Tarell.
Oh, I didn't know if you were still going. I'm sorry.
I can stop.
No, I just wanted to chime in real quick. That I'm glad you brought up the lesson, because I think that's like one of the biggest things when it comes to artists doing what they want to do. They have to understand that you're going to go through certain setbacks, and you're going to go through a bunch of people telling you no, or a bunch of things aren't going to go your way, and you just have to be mentally prepared for it. And that's something that I struggle with personally. For some odd reason, I want to control everything. I want to know for a fact that this is going to work. And whenever it doesn't work, I'm like, I hate it. But slowly, I'm starting to understand, like, listen, you're going to get people that are going to tell you no. Sometimes things aren't going to work out. Sometimes, things don't happen overnight. Basically, you got to be more patient. So I'm glad that you shared that story.
Yeah, Tarell, that's a really good point, is releasing that control. I feel like when you feel like you release your control, or at least you're releasing your control of how it happens, keeping in sight, yep, like you said, that it's going to happen, but just releasing all the other stuff really helps with your sanity. Really helps with, again, putting more fuel in that tank, because if you just like, God's got it, like, let me just keep going. Let me not try to figure each step out, because it doesn't matter what I think is going to happen. Life is going to do what life is going to do. I am just in control of, am I going to keep going? Do I still have the resilience and the perseverance in me to see my dream realized? So as long as that is like the base, then yeah, then bring it on and flow. And enjoy the meantime. There's so much to enjoy in the meantime. And I think we forget sometimes in the pursuit.
So I wanted to move forward a little bit, because when we first heard that, he was going to give us this opportunity to have this conversation, I personally immediately ran to the IMBD, and I've seen some stuff like you was on Uncle P, which I personally remember from my childhood in like high school, watching that show. And then seeing that you was on like in Obsessed, you had some part in 24 and you know, bigger television shows. So I just wanted to know, how was that experience? You know, because we're right now, me myself, you know, we're at a lower level of getting things done, but being on that upper level of like a show like 24, or you know, working on a show like Truth Be Told with Octavia Spencer, like how is that? How does that work? How is the set? How is the environment? Can you give us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, every set and show is different. Everything's got its own personality, and I have definitely been blessed to be on some really cool sets with some really great people who care about the entire cast and not just the main people on the call sheet, the one and the two on the call sheet. Like they show love to everyone. I think the best set I have been on probably was Grey's Anatomy. Shondaland is real. And I feel like a lot of the times the culture of a set, it's top down. It's about the leadership. And so I really feel like she is just infused all up in that and has empowered other strong women to run the set, to be part of that. So it was great to see women behind the camera in spaces and places that you might not normally see them. So I in terms of the audition process, what's really interesting is for Grey's Anatomy, for example, I think that was probably one of my best auditions, because a lot of the times, at least leading up to Black Lives Matter and folks giving some Black girl magic love in places and in roles that you might not normally see them. Leading up to that, a lot of times I go to an audition and be, you know, what version of a brown skinned curly haired girl do you want? Right. So I felt like I had to be the best brown skinned curly haired girl in that room, which sometimes can be a lot of pressure, right? Because it's not like, all right, I'm flowing. It's me trying to control being the best, when I just got to trust myself and just go. When I got to the casting room with Grey's Anatomy, it was women who were, I bet, my auntie's age. Like everybody was so much older. And I played a social worker. And in that, it seemed like they just wanted somebody older and a bit more jaded. So I just went in and did my thing. And that's when I did my best. And I ended up getting that role. And what's funny is the first day on set. So Tom Verica was my very first director on set. Tom Verica played Viola Davis's husband in How to Get Away with Murder. I don't know if his white dude comes to mind, but he was a fantastic director. And in that, I wanted to give them my version of social worker. Like, I'm just going to be what I thought a social worker was, very dry, very jaded. But turns out that he came to me after the first, like, all right, cut everybody. And he said, Janora, we hired you because of your natural compassion and warmth. Don't lose that. So it's something else, another testament to not try to fill shoes in a way that you think, but trust yourself and trust your own magic. My magic is my natural warmth and compassion. And that's what they wanted. So I do not think, Xavier, I answered any of your questions. I just went straight to Grey's, just in terms of thinking about wonderful experiences on sets. Uncle P, man, shout out to Uncle P. That's pretty awesome. Percy Miller. And I played a nurse in that, and it was really cool. That was actually my first movie when I moved out to LA that I was in. And I hate to keep going back here, but I attended the American Black Film Festival. The last year it was in Acapulco when I first moved out here to LA. Who did I meet? I met the writer from Uncle P. He gave me a chance to audition and I got it. So I cannot, if I look at my resume, I will at least say 50% of the roles are from some way of a connection and a network and someone I met along my journey. I cannot underscore how much how important that is. I want to make sure though that I reiterate, it's not just knowing the right person and getting in the room, it's being prepared when you do get in the room. And it's also like, if you take that to heart, like, okay, that means I just got to meet people. People can feel when you're thirsty. You know what I mean? So it has to also be from a genuine way. I think the people who have helped me out and been blessings in my journey, again, have seen either my hard work or felt how genuine I was. But if I was up there like, what can you do for me in the first part of the conversation, or that's the energy that I'm projecting, then I don't think I would have had any of those opportunities. So I think it's a balance, but definitely that's where a lot of the money and magic is in terms of pursuing whatever you want, but in front of the camera or behind the camera.
You mentioned that Grey's Anatomy was in your opinion, your best, I guess your best role or best performance. I'm not sure how you worded it, but what would you say it was your most challenging role? Like out of all the work you've done, what would you say is your most challenging?
That's a really good question, Tarell. I would say this one, I did this movie called Drifters. It was a science fiction film, and it was one of the 50% that I just showed up and did my damn thing in the casting room, and I got the role. I didn't know anybody attached. It turned out to be written and directed by this foreign notable man, Roel Renee, and it was starring this Australian actor. I was the only sister in the film. What made it challenging, I'm getting to your answer, Tarell. What made it challenging wasn't that like, okay, I'm in this international space and I don't know nobody and I got to represent. We traveled by RV to all these places to shoot this movie. We traveled to Lake Havasu, which is, I'm sorry, you guys are from the East Coast. So we basically traveled from LA. We did a shoot at this home they renovated in LA and did this like drowning scene in the pool in the back. Then we drove down to El Centro, which is like by the border of Phoenix and Mexico. And that's where they have these sand dunes. And that's where they have the sand, Glamis is the name of the area with the sand dunes. I believe they did one of the Star Wars movies down there. So I'm doing a fight scene and rolling down these sand dunes. And then we travel, Lake Havasu. And I think that's like up another border area. And we did like some raft work. In other words, I had to do all my stunts. We traveled by RV. So it's, we have these prosthetic stuff that we got to wear. It was just wacky in so many different ways because it was low budget ish, but at the same time, it was just a challenge and a reward to do all these things with these strangers that became friends in all these places. And I really feel like if it was more of a bigger budget production, I wouldn't have had the chance to do my own stunts, or we would have, flown and not piled in the RV and did it guerrilla style to do all these things and go all these places. So I know that doesn't sound like much of a challenge and it sounds like a whole lot of fun. That's the first thing that came to mind. But if there's something else I think of, I'm gonna let you know. But I feel like that was a role for me that, I don't know, really spoke to being here in LA, like, and just milestones along the way that just mark that I'm in the right place, doing the right thing, going the right direction.
I like that. It kind of felt like how we're doing films now, and it could be like the budget aspect of things, where you just gotta, you know, jump into your car and go try to shoot a scene really quick before, you know, somebody sees you or anything like that. So it is interesting to hear that bigger films also do the same thing, like that same method and same idea to it. But my question is a little bit about that film, because I'm a big horror and sci-fi guy myself. What made you want to go with that role? Like, did you get an opportunity to read the script, and the audition when you heard what type of film, what it is, what kind of stuck out about it that you was like, yeah, I want to do this?
Well, I think at the time that audition notification came out, I was just ready to put my hat in the ring for anything that fit the parameter. So I had not read the script until I got the part, and then I was like, whoa, like I like science fiction myself. So what had happened was this guy, the main character, this Australian actor, Cameron, what's his I was trying to give him a shout out and my brain is not working, but either way, Cam okay, I'm not even gonna try. The whole point is the main character dies, but we don't know he dies. And so what he's going through and these people that he's meeting and these strange places that he's going are like that whole in-between time, and everybody represents somebody else. So I'm like the sister along, but I'm on this journey, but I'm really his wife in real life, who's somebody completely different. I don't know. It was just one of those weird kind of movies. And I find them fascinating. Like anything to make your brain stretch and get out the realm of these standard linear box and planes that we live on. But I think there's so much more than just that. I don't even think I'm describing the third dimension or fourth dimension, whatever, well, but I think there's so much more than just our six senses. And so I think anytime that you could play with that, especially as you tell a story, why not?
So do you think in the future you'll be drawn more towards like sci-fi kind of roles?
Huh. That's a great question. I mean, I will be drawn toward what the good Lord will have for me, that it's along my path that helps a sister continue to work on some positive, impactful things. And if it just happens to be on the sci-fi realm, I'm not mad. I loved Heroes. I love The Event, Manifest, like all these like science fiction things that are out now or have been out. I love all that. So it would be a blessing to do something in that realm as an actor.
So it's been like the stories are amazing, and you can feel the passion that you have in it, and my question just comes from that. Do you see yourself stopping anytime soon? Is this something that you see yourself doing way into, you know, your elderly years, or like how do you feel about that?
Xavier, I am going to try to Cicely Tyson my way out of this world. Bless her 96 years on this earth doing what she loved for decades. And especially doing it at a time where there was no love for the Black woman when she started. So God bless her. And yes, I pray that God grants me the same longevity, roles that are exciting. And like I said, impactful. I think that's really important as well, because it's not just about me. It's also about lending my art in a way into a place that grows us as a society and as human beings. So yeah, I ain't going nowhere. Now, granted, I am excited about my voiceover career. I am looking forward to my next voiceover campaign. I'm looking forward to doing more in animation and continuing my loop group. And even outside of just the entertainment industry, I'm looking forward to more dinner parties with friends and good wine. My wife and I, we just started a company where we do, she's a DJ and I MC. So we've done house parties, backyard barbecues, and weddings. We also recently bought a boat. We bought an electric Duffy boat, and I love wine. I think I've only mentioned that like 5 times undercover this whole conversation. So on the little Duffy boat, I talk about wines of women winemakers. She smokes a mean cigar, so she does a cigar lesson on the boat, And I can also do a tour of the Shoreline Marina in the Long Beach area because that's where the boat is parked. So in other words, instead of my days that I'm not acting or auditioning, instead of being like, oh, when is my phone gonna ring? You know what? I got a boat tour to do. I don't have time to now worry or try to control things I can't. And I'm doing something I'm good at with people. I'm meeting new people. I'm sharing. It's like my own one-woman show. I'm still sharing in a passionate way something that makes me excited, and it's outside in nature. So as long as I can continue to fill my days with things that fill me, that's life, right? Like along the path, along this journey of dreams, like, yeah, the meantime and I know it's so cliche, but the meantime and the journey is really where it's at. Because when you get to where you get, then it's going to be something else, or that place, you can't hold it. It doesn't stay. It transforms, and then it becomes something else. And so I look forward to definitely more of my time. Like, I'm ready for my series regular role instead of, recurring. I'm ready to sign that contract and be on set. But I also recognize the beauty of the time I have now. And so I'm not worried. I am flowing through life, and I'm not going to front either. Like, I am zen all the time. I am passionate, positive all the time. Like, as a human, I feel like disappointment does happen. It's just, are you going to stay down? And are you going to let that keep you down? Like, when am I going to get back up? When am I going to dust myself off? And what tools do I have to help me get there in a positive way? Like my tribe, where my tribe at when I'm down, and having those certain things in place help guarantee that you're not going to be down and out forever. So it's kind of like also in the meantime, setting yourself up for success, because you know that you're going to trip and fall again, because that's just life. So I'm so happy you caught me on a good day.
Yeah.
and it is a blessing to be able to share what has worked for me and what hasn't worked, and help the next person out, because that's really what it's about. You can't hoard this information. Like, nah, somebody helped me. It is my duty to pay it forward and to continue to pass it along. So again, I appreciate this opportunity to just talk you to death, Xavier and Tarell, and folks listening. As I sweat to death in my house.
You got something,
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say I like the fact that you're not putting a cap on your passion. You're just, again, you want to Cicely Tyson your way out of this world, which is a very great way of saying it. And I plan on doing the same thing. That's how much I love filmmaking. So again, yeah, thank you for the story. It's impactful.
It's definitely impactful, and I'm the same way. And it's funny because I was having the same conversation with my parent about the idea of doing certain jobs. Because growing up in a Black family home, a lot of it is security. Get the piece of paper, security. And then I'm one of maybe the only one in a family that's kind of going in a field where there's not a lot of security. I could fall on my face, or I could not fall on my face. So. And then the generational gap of having that understanding. And then it's an entertainment business. So some of it is not as serious as maybe being, a physical therapist or something like that, right? So to have these conversations on the podcast with my peers and other people that I can look up to that can mentor, it's exciting to have that yes, there is security. Like there really is security if you do this, if you do that, if you have this mindset, if you have this work ethic, or whatever the case may be. So that's really inspiring, hearing it from, Black women, Black men, people that, that look like me moving forward.
Yeah. And the security is definitely in here. You know what I mean? Because even if you work at IBM in 2021, nothing's secure. We just came through a pandemic. So even if you did take a more standard secure route, we just saw the whole world turn upside down. So nothing is guaranteed but this and this, you know what I'm saying? So keeping that connection and keeping that fire alive and understanding that with the ebb and flow, it might dip down a little bit, but finding that here, that's what keeps you going.
Definitely agree. That's all the questions I had. I thought this was an amazing conversation, more so than an interview, and I appreciate the opportunity of you coming on. Do you have anything that you wanted to share, any advice or anything to our viewers, or myself and Tarell, that you haven't already shared?
I feel like, yes, I have talked y'all to death, and I feel like I say the same things over and over, but I think that's just a testament to how much I believe in it and how much it has helped my own journey. Because I definitely feel it's important to not speak from this place, but no, this is my journey. This is what happened to me, and this is what worked, and this is what helped. So going back to the strength of the people that surround you, not just in terms of networking, but in terms of building you up and reminding you who you are. The importance of being prepared when tough times do come, knowing that well can continue to go deep as you need it. But that whatever it is that you need is there. The importance of being prepared when you do have an opportunity. So whether that is staying in class or getting your education or whatever that keeps you sharp and above the rest, that's important. And also to you both, Xavier and Tarell, I want to say thank you. It's just as important for me to get your energy and feel your passion and your dreams, as well as me, share my stories about my journey. Because shucks, again, I got 20 years worth of bumps and bruises, and I remember sitting where you all are sitting now, feeling that fire, feeling that excitement about what's to come. So thank you for reminding me of that and inspiring me with, y'all just being two dope young men doing your thing with big dreams. And I can't wait to watch and support the stories that you all will create and share with the world as your journeys continue.
Thank you. So appreciate it. That is our show. We'd like to thank everybody watching, and of course, thank the amazing Janora Mcduffie for blessing us with her dope information that we all need. Appreciate it, and that's the show.
Certified real.
Hey, I'm a little excited.
You heard it here first. Certified real. Everybody.
You are now listening to Real Talk Podcast.
This is certified